Join us as career changers, company leaders, industry experts, and others who have been in your shoes share their stories, insights, and lessons learned to help you find enjoyment through employment in the tech world. I'm Nemo Ashong, and this is the Empjoyment Podcast. Heyo, employees, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode and to subscribe to the Empjoyment Podcast on whatever podcast app you listen to. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to talk to you today, and I'm excited for you because today we're going to be talking to someone who has found employment all throughout his career in multiple ways throughout tech. So in the past, we've talked to a lot of people who've done different things and then entered the tech world. Today, we got to talk to Mike Mayer, who spent basically his entire experience, his entire career in tech, and has consistently made it a point to find his level of enjoyment based on where he is currently in his journey. I'm excited for this episode because we talk a lot about internal mobility. Some of the people that I coach are interested in staying in their current company, but they just know that the role that they're doing right now doesn't really fulfill them, or they are looking for their next challenge and they want to make sure that they are on a path to continuous growth. And I think that's really important because, quite frankly, to put it bluntly, it really sucks when really good people leave a great organization that they otherwise feel a really great connection and loyalty and passion towards, but don't know how to navigate the next part of their career and end up leaving to go ahead and find that. And to me, the context in which I say that is when there was another option that could have worked for them in that organization that would have been a win-win for all. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes your next career opportunity just isn't there. But when it is, I want to make sure that you employees have the opportunity of being able to see where you can apply your skills next and how you can go apply your skills next in whatever organization you want. I guess that's really what it is. Like, when I think about your employment, I don't want you to be limited. I don't want you to have to leave your organization in order to figure out how to move forward. So that's where Mike has really excelled in his experience here, where his entire career has been in tech. And we talk about some of the challenges and some of the ways that he's approached switching jobs within the same company and building his skills and really having a full career, because sometimes we just talk about the career change. But quite frankly, that's just the first step to employment, or just one of the levels of employment that you can find. And we're here to make sure you get sustained enjoyment no matter what happens in your career and in your life. I'm going to encourage you before we start this episode to come and join me for one-on-one coaching session. I want to be able to take this from theory. I want to take this from other people's experiences and make it yours, because I truly believe that enjoyment can be experienced by everyone, but sometimes we just don't know what that looks like. Sometimes we don't know how to actually create it and what we're actually looking to create. It's been incredibly rewarding. It's been awesome. I'll be real with you, employees. Like, I finished coaching conversations and people are like, this is the first time that I've really been able to say how I truly feel. And I honestly feel like there's a way that I can get from where I am right now and make this happen. Like, I'm just excited to start taking action and start doing things right now. Do you see why I do this? This fills me with enjoyment. I get to have deep conversations with highly motivated people who are dreaming bigger than they've ever dreamed before in their life and leave the conversations knowing that it is possible. I mean, wow, when I say it out loud, I'm like, yeah, this is some awesome stuff. So I want to make sure that you have the chance to participate and benefit from this here, because right now, enjoyment is small enough that I can do this personally. In the future, I may not be able to speak one-on-one in the same way. And I'm sure that I'll find a way to add value that is exponential when that time comes, but I can focus that attention and all that onto you to help you see and express what you might be thinking but can't put words to, or what you want to put out there and are afraid to put words to, or can clearly articulate but don't know how to make the next move. We can clearly articulate but still feel stuck with where you are. That's the fun part about coaching. We got to take steps forward, and those steps don't have to be monumental steps. It could be the tiniest next step. And I'm okay with playing that game to help you get unstuck and help you get and live into the level of enjoyment that you're looking for right now. So just go over to empjoyment.com/coaching and fill out the brief application. I'm looking forward to having that deep, powerful conversation with you. You ready for this? Let's jump into this conversation with Mike Mayer. Enjoy. Welcome to the Enjoyment Podcast, where we're focused on helping people just like you find enjoyment through employment. Employees, are you ready? Because we have Mike Mayer on today's podcast. Mike, would you like to say hello to employees out there?
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. Nemo, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
We're excited to have you here. And what I'd love to do is just let people know about you from a professional standpoint really quickly. And then we'll go into get to know you a little bit more personally. Perfect. So Mike is an entrepreneurial-minded marketer focused on building consumer-facing brands. As a Venture for America fellow, Mike co-founded a nonprofit to teach entrepreneurship to underprivileged middle schoolers in New Orleans while working at a market research tech startup. He now helps Betterment, a venture-backed tech company, launch new products and services. Mike graduated summa cum laude with a BS in economics from the Wharton School. Mike, this is awesome. We're getting a picture of who you are professionally here. We're seeing a little bit of your journey, but we want to get to know you. Would you mind taking us through and letting us know about your life, love, work, and passion?
Man, where do I even start? I appreciate the intro, and I think that's just a snapshot of what I've done professionally, and I really try to mirror my personal interests with my professional career development. I think something that's really important to me is making sure that my career choices and my work choices are reflective of what I believe in. Just as a human being on this earth, right? Part of, you mentioned Venture for America. It's a nonprofit that I joined after college, and the mission is to spread entrepreneurship and build a culture in the country of starting companies in places in the country that you wouldn't really expect entrepreneurship to live. I happen to be in New Orleans. But the values of VFA align with my personal values. So, I'm trying to find work and passions that align with what I want. I'm living in New York now, and I'm working on a couple side projects, outside of Betterment, and we can get into those. But, I'm sort of always looking for something scrappy and creative and entrepreneurial to do, whether that's coming up with a new data idea in the city, or if it's coming up with a side project that I'm trying to make money on, what have you. It's sort of just like I'm always turning, and I'm always trying to figure out what's next, for better or for worse. I've heard that's a weakness, but I enjoy sort of the spontaneity of that sort of mentality, and New York lends itself really well to that mentality.
It's really interesting. You said you heard that it's a weakness, and what I have found is that usually our greatest strengths end up also being our greatest weaknesses. And I'm sure the thing I'm already getting from you here is that your balance. You found your balance, or you're gonna find your balance, and whatever it is, I don't know. I look at it, I'm like, I'm not worried. The value that you're gonna add into the world is so much more than whatever that bit of the weaknesses is. And it's funny.
I appreciate that. I'm always trying to find that balance. I think I'm always going to, because I want to keep pushing myself to do more and more. And then I hear on, the other side of my brain, and from successful people that have started companies before, the key is focusing and focus on what you're doing now and what you believe in now. You can do everything, but you can't do everything at once. And so I'm trying to figure out, that whole at once piece, which is tricky. But you mentioned passion, lifelong passion. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot. Cause I've never really had a specific passion. When I think back to what I wanted to do when I was little, and I thought about what I wanted to do when I grew up, I didn't really have a clear answer to that. I kind of just, I thought maybe I'd be a doctor because my dad's a doctor, or, I would run my own business because that kind of sounds sexy, and, be your own boss, have your own hours. But So there were, a few things that kind of stood out, but there was nothing that I could pinpoint as being, I played sports, but I didn't love sports enough so that that's going to be my whole life. There's a friend of mine in high school named David Winrick. I haven't spoken to David in a long time, so hopefully he listens to this. And hey, David, I remember him in like 10th grade. He was obsessed with trains, and he would build model trains. And he ended up getting an internship at Disney, or maybe it was his first full-time job, basically like building model trains at the Disney parks, and sort of like, he sort of honed in on a passion, and he pursued it hard, and he did it well, and he got to probably the most successful point that he could be with what he wanted to do. So when I think about passion like that, like I didn't have one, and I still don't. So I hope that paints a little bit more color around that first question.
It absolutely does. And, it's funny, but like, I feel that, so first I love asking that question for a reason, because, a lot of times people are like, what is my passion? Like you can actually hear them think about it, like during the conversation here. And I think that there's something that's really interesting to me, which is like, I actually feel that like you might have a passion. Do you mind if I toss out what I've found to be passionate just from this first 5 minutes of conversation?
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I feel like you're passionate for like moving things forward. You're passionate for testing out new ideas and changing the status quo of what things are. And like, if there is from what you've described and this what I've heard already here, it feels like you're passionate for creating your future or creating a reality that you want, and you're unrelenting on that. Like the same way that David was out there building trains out there, you're building businesses. It just doesn't like you don't have a model to just go ahead and just keep putting it back together, But like at the same time, you've found a way to like make that a core part of what you do. And that's like a skill set and something that you continue to build out. I mean, look at this. You have a job. You've had all these different things. And in your spare time, you're like, I'm always looking for new projects. I am always looking for new ways to spread other people to be able to think this way. And one of the things I love the most about what you said at the very beginning is that, I even keep this in mind when I'm like looking at dates, like you're like, this is not something that you're like, okay, I have to do it. At no point does that ever come up. It's like, this is what I do. I do it at work. I do it with nonprofits. And even when I'm just at home, like this is what I do. And I have fun doing it. And you know what? Luckily, it also can lead to a very successful financial and it's like personal fulfillment. So I'm going to toss that out there as a potential passion for you. Maybe it's something that you can explore as that goes on. Yeah, no,
it's a good articulation of a lot of the feelings that I have inside. That's hard for me to sort of synthesize. So I'm going to hire you to just walk around with me and just like whisper that into my ear, every so often, just to kind of keep me motivated and pumped up. I thought it was a good synthesis of a lot of the stuff that I've been thinking about. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's changing the status quo or if it's creating something from nothing, and just like that feeling of accomplishment to know that that I had an idea and that I worked with a team of really smart people and friends and family and like everyone along the way who helps, push you along, right? Teachers in high school and in college that challenge you, like all of that stuff leads to something. And so I don't know, it's kind of like taking all that, it's like building something from nothing, I think is part of it. And a lot of it is sort of this like rebellious nature where like, I don't, like everyone from Wharton who studied finance, who did well, like there's like literally a red carpet from Philadelphia, Penn's campus to Wall Street, to iBanking, to, also like the big consulting firms. And so I was like seeing that. I forget at the time when I graduated in 2012 what the numbers were. But I think it was somewhere like 80% of finance concentrations end up working in consulting or banking. And like I remember just feeling like I could just, Locust Walk is kind of the main walk on campus. And so on graduation, you just have this like the flood of students that are walking. And I just remember having this vision of me like running the other way and like wanting to run the other way. And like, you know, I ultimately made that decision. So, you know, I was doing investment banking for a summer internship because I felt like I had to do it for multiple reasons. I mean, there is pressure from everybody else at the school. There is, you know, pressure from my parents that were like, you can do it, so you should do it. So there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of like, it was the most prestigious thing that I could do at the time. And so I did it. I ended up getting an offer, and saying no, and looking for something else. And that something else ended up being Venture for America, which, you know, put me on a roller coaster, a rocket ship to you know, accelerating this feeling of wanting to start a company. But like, it like stemmed out of this idea of like going against the grain and like doing something different. And it, like, not to keep bringing up the date thing, but like, you know, that's been top of mind recently. So it's like everyone goes to a bar to go on a date. Like you just like, that's what you do. You meet at a bar, you get drinks, and you talk. And like, I even have like an issue with that. Like, I want to do something different. I want to do something unique. I want to like, you know, go on some like random adventure that like none of us have done. So like that's sort of the ethos that I'm like living in, and I'm trying to like, you know, keep pushing forward, and hopefully that doesn't stop, and that filters into some of the more business related entrepreneurial stuff that I'm working on.
You know, Michael, like as you're saying this here, like I can't actually see it ever stopping. Like as you just like it's fun because I feel like you're exploring this here and you're seeing it come to life. And I'm like, this is just who you are, you know? You had mentioned here a part about like, you know, you got done and you felt like the whole crowd was moving in one direction. You're just like, I just want to go out in a complete opposite direction there. I think that's really powerful there, because it's not easy to listen to that gut. It's not easy to, you know, go like, because if I'm getting what you're saying here, you went to school, you went to Wharton, you had the red carpet out for finance, like laid out in front of you, which to me would also mean financial stability, like security in life. You know, you're going to be able to live in New York City as a young 20-something-year-old. Like everything is like really set up for you for whatever kind of future quote unquote success. You know personally that you would not have been fulfilled through that. You know personally that there was something else out there for you. And you had mentioned like your parents in this here, and I think that like one of the reasons why I started Enjoyment is really around like, I feel like my parents are incredibly supportive, but it took me 4 years after when I knew I wanted to get into tech to actually jump in, you know? And it was like, I had to get to a point of like, you know what? I don't care what anyone else says. Like, I'm just going to go and do me, if that makes sense. Because I'm like, I'm living it, and this is the lifestyle that I want, and these are the people that I want. I want to be around Mikes out there who are just like, I'm just so driven to go do something. So like, how did you deal with that? Like, I think it's like fun to be like, oh yeah, like I knew what was going on, but I knew I wanted something different, and I ended up in New Orleans. Like, help me understand, like, how did you deal with that part of like the social pressure of like, you know, turning away everything that looks great on paper and like, this is the life you're supposed to have, Mike. What are you doing? Yeah,
right. I mean, I don't know what, and I'm curious to hear from you after, just like what the turning point was, or like, you know, the pushing point where you were like, I'm just going to do it. For me, it started earlier. Like I wasn't in Wharton when I applied to Penn. I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I thought about being a doctor. I thought about being a writer. I wanted to major in English and minor in or major in biological basis of behavior. It was a like psychology, biology hybrid major, and then a minor in English, and do something more creative, more like liberal artsy. But I had the grades after freshman year to transfer into Wharton, and that's like, you know, there's a Wharton casts a very large shadow, not in a good or bad way. I'm just saying that it has a lot of influence on campus. And so the fact that I knew that I could go there, it was, you know, it's known to be the best school on campus. So I was like, I should do that. I was also, you know, my parents were sort of whispering in my ear, like, you should just do it. And so I did. And then you know, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I transferred into Wharton, and everybody did finance. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm here, if I made the decision to be in Wharton, then I should make the decision to be in finance because that's the best education that I could get at that particular school. So then I did finance. I wasn't particularly interested in finance. In fact, I kind of didn't like it. Like I just didn't like it, and I did it anyway because that was what I was supposed to do. So now I have these decisions that I've made that, like, in my gut, I knew that those decisions weren't me. Like you can just feel it in your heart when you make a decision, and it's not a decision that like you would make, but it was made by external factors and a combination of internal pressure. And so I had this all built up, and then the turning point was like, wait a second, like, you know, I just worked really hard for 4 years. I got the experiences that I was supposed to get, and I like still didn't like it. I couldn't see myself continuing down that path. And it was sort of like this moment of like, wait a second, I can do whatever I want. I can go to whatever city in the country, in the world that I want, get any job that I want. Not in like a overly confident way, but, you know, just sort of like, I have room to explore. And that kind of got to me. And I remember Skyping, my parents. They were on a vacation in Spain, and I was just like, I said no to my banking offer, and I'm not going to do it. And they were just like, they were kind of shocked. Like, I think, you know, you said your parents are supportive. They're, you know, super supportive, and but you could tell it was like, are you, like, what are you doing? You're throwing this opportunity away. So I can't really talk to the exact moment of like I need to break away. And I need to kind of, the social pressure, the parental pressure, the financial pressure, because, you know, I gave up a lot of money I made a third of what I would have made if I had done banking right out of college. So there was financial pressure. But ultimately, like, I knew that that was the first time, and I'm so proud of it. That was the first time that I actually like listened to the little voice in my heart, in my head, that followed my gut instinct. And so, you know, now when I make decisions, like with anything, you know, of course, everyone succumbs to social pressure, and, you know, you love your parents and your family, so you listen to them. But, you know, more than ever, in anything, I've really tried to listen to that voice. And I think that if all you do for the rest of your life is make decisions based on that voice, no matter what, like, you're going to end up okay. You might not make as much money, or, you know, live in the fanciest house, or have the craziest car, or whatever. And it might take you to different cities and countries, and who knows what, meeting different people. But I think as long as you listen to that heart, then you're golden. So that's, you know, a long-winded way of saying, it just kind of all bubbled up, and I realized that I had room to explore.
Michael, we're going to have so much fun here because, like, as you're saying this here, like surprisingly, well, firstly, like, kudos to you on just listening to that voice in your heart. And, you know, it's something that it's not an easy thing to do. I'm actually right now trying to train myself to listen to that voice in my heart. Yeah. Literally before I got on this call with you, I sat, I meditated, and I reminded myself, I like to practice gratitude. And I'm like, all right, like, what are the three things that I'm grateful for? And I relive that. And I'm like, okay, there's some things that are blocking me here. I'm just going to listen for a little bit and see what my heart tells me. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pursue that. And I'm gonna make that come to life. And it's really weird. And it's like, because it's weird mainly because of social norms, because they don't teach you in school that you're supposed to listen, to your heart. Right. For some reason, we've decided that it's actually not a problem at all to just sit in a room, learn something from a book, and then spit it back out. And that's supposed to be normal, you know? And so like in my mind, I'm very much on the I believe that the world has been created by other people around me, you know, and now it's my turn. So either I can help them create their vision, or I can go create my own. And I really love that part where you're just like, you know what? Wait, I got all the experiences I was supposed to do, you know, and it just didn't feel like anything. You're like, wait a minute, like, you know, I could do whatever I want. Like, I made the choice to go into Wharton. I could make another. You talk a lot about like decisions. And that's so empowering to like make that choice and then see it through and then make another choice based on it. And I think that you like, what's cool is that you're like, my parents were shocked, right? But like, what I didn't hear was my parents were afraid, you know, because I think they also know the power of making a decision like that, of being committed to something at that point. Totally. It's really special. Yeah, Michael.
I'm interested. In hearing you, like, was there a particular moment that you sort of abandoned that pressure and said, I'm going to dive into what I actually think that I'm interested in? And if you can remember that moment.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So for me, I would say no, there wasn't a specific moment. There was probably there was a time where it's like, this is definitely going to happen. And it's actually really interesting, but I haven't shared this on the podcast before, but, my transition was the way that it flowed was while I had interviewed at different places along the way while at my same company. I spent 6 years there. And I had interviewed just because of there are times where I'm like, I think I might want to do this tech thing, Yeah. And I'd interviewed to the point where and I had gotten job offers, as a result of that, or I made it into the final rounds as a result, just me and one other person. So along the way, I was an actuary and I had known for a while that I needed to move out of it. I was taking exams related to that. There was a lot of weekends and nights spent alone in a room just studying, so there was a true investment there. I was at the last part of my journey before I got my credentials. And I think for me, just knowing that I had other opportunities out there that I already knew that in myself that wait, you're valuable. You're more than just an actuary and you've already gotten jobs. You just decided that it wasn't the right time or there wasn't the right overall thing for you at that moment. Coupled with the fact that my friend had invited me to do an entrepreneurial endeavor with him. One day we're roommates. He comes in one day. He's like, I built this thing. You know a lot of people. I'd love for you to help with marketing. And one of the big moments for me was when I got the first company to go out there and put the logo on their website. I called them up and I was like, hey, we want to get this logo up on your website so that people can share cabs to where you're going. There's a thing called Cab With Me. And before Uber came and just took over New York City.
Could have been you. It could have been you.
I know, right? Well, you know what? But I think that was the thing. That moment, the moment when I saw that logo up on that website, it was just all of a sudden it's wait, here goes someone else who has their own business. It's a real thing. They have this thing that they have a business. It's a thing. And I just called them up on the phone because my friend randomly asked me when I was one day sitting in my living room to be a part of this thing he had been doing. And now because I called them, this thing exists on their site and other people can now use this tool. And that that blew my mind open in terms of wait a minute, I could what this is the kind of impact I can have,
Yeah. It's sort of those sort of moments, those moments of euphoria or of, just this adrenaline rush, especially when it's something that you helped create. It's whoa, I can actually have an impact on something. And I remember that exact feeling that I had for the first time. I remember I was in New Orleans. This is when I after I had been working on the nonprofit called Startup Effect that I worked on in my time in New Orleans. But I on the side I made this. Basically, it was an Excel tool called Network to Success, and essentially what it was just it gamified networking. So you would tell us your goals in tab 1. You would tell us who you wanted to network with to meet your goals in tab 2. And then you would there was just this status tracker in tab 3. And on tab 4, there was a whole point system. So you could see graphs and charts of your progress as you were working your way through this goal. And we made a website on Wix.com. I don't know. It was in a day. It was super cheap and scrappy. Threw it up, wrote a few blog posts, ended up calling I was on the phone with Penn's Career Center, and I started calling other universities saying, hey, there's this amazing new networking tool that we just built, and I think it would be really useful for your students. Got shut down immediately by all of them, but ended up making 2 weeks later, ended up making a sale. Someone bought this Excel book that we had just made in a weekend. Some guy in Germany, I don't know, paid $20 for this networking Excel book. And the feeling is very similar to what I'm sure you felt when you saw that cab logo on the other website, it's just like, whoa, this is cool. Like, this is really cool. And if I can do this, then there's much more that I can do. Right. So it's like that first feeling that like kind of accelerates you in this direction is powerful.
It truly is. It's like, it's a fun place to play. It's a fun place to be. And I'm kind of curious from your standpoint, like as you're going through this year, like, do you have like some kind of success quote or mantra that you use to like kind of keep you like moving forward, or like kind of like look that just helps you like see how like, you view the world and how things have come together? Like, be really interested in given all this here. Like what is that for you? What is your,
this, you nailed it early on when you said like this, you see me kind of like, this sort of like year of experimentation. My mantra is take swings. You get up to the plate and take the swing. And like, who cares if you strike out? You're gonna get back up to the plate and swing again. Like, because you never know what, one idea could be a single, one idea could be a double. You could hit a home run. You could strike out 10 times in a row. You still get another at bat eventually, right? You still play in another game. Unless the coach benches you, but you're your own coach. Like, you can bench yourself mentally. You can tell yourself, I can't do this. And like, so you're sitting yourself on the bench, but like, you gotta stay positive. You gotta keep putting yourself back in the game. And when you're up at the plate, take another swing. And so like, I repeat that in my head a lot. It's just like with anything, if you're hesitant about something because you feel like you may take this risk and be embarrassed, or you put yourself out there and it doesn't work out, like that is not an excuse. Like anytime you get the feeling of like I really want to do this, like I know tomorrow I'm going to regret if I don't do this, like you have to do it. You like that should push you to do it even more, because you're fighting that fear. You're fighting that fear of failure and that fear of embarrassment. I think for me, take swings sort of helps push me over that hump when I'm feeling that way.
So I'm seeing this here. I'm seeing you taking all these at bats. I'm seeing you, getting out there and taking swings. And I'm looking to do is like, I was wondering if you can give us an example, a specific example in your life. And you kind of like alluded to a couple of different things, but why don't you take us to a moment that occurred for you in your life where you felt like, you needed it to take a swing, and just give us something in your professional journey that will help employees kind of see this for them, where they're like, I've been sitting in my desk. I've been working for years in this career. I've been about to make this move here, or, I think I want to do it, but I'm just not sure that I'm good enough, or that I have the skills and experience to make it happen. Can you like walk us through a time where you took a swing in that kind of situation? And
I mean, are you looking for something more, in the office environment, more like, at Betterment, for example, or at the other tech company that I worked at, or a continuation of sort of the entrepreneurial endeavors?
Yeah. So I think right now what I would say is I'm going to leave that up to you. Right. But where I would say is like, for the employees that are listening to this right now, for the employees who are like, yeah, I'm also passionate. Yeah, I also want to create, or, I don't have that kind of creative vibe in me, or whatever it is, right? Like, what story comes to mind in your heart, if you were listening to your heart, that you feel employees need to hear right now, that you need to get out there and help them move forward as an example of a time that you took a swing?
Yeah. Man, I mean, so while I've been at Betterment, which, I'd love to talk to later. I mean, I've been here for about 2.5 years and have enjoyed every moment of it. I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of different roles. I'd say two things really pop into my mind. One is Betterment related, and it's working at a tech company related. And the other one sort of fits into more of like the venture side of things. So I'll start with the first, which is that I had been in a role in a product marketing role for a while, and I wanted exposure to other things in the business. One of the incredible things about working at a tech company and a growing tech company is that the opportunity that, like, you never know what opportunities are going to come up. Things are changing constantly. Teams are changing. The business is changing. The strategy is changing, and so like. You really have to be nimble. And so I was in this role for I was kind of stagnating, to be honest. And this opportunity popped up, and I, sort of like was comfortable in my role. was like kind of flowing. Like I could do it in my sleep, in other words. And it was just like, I knew I wasn't learning, but it was kind of cushy. And it was sort of this moment of like, go for it. Just like ask for it. Ask for the promotion, like ask for the change. And so like in like a tech company betterment context, like that kind of pops in my mind. I ended up like having great conversations with, the powers that be, and like the change happened relatively seamlessly. Like I didn't even, had I known it was going to be that easy and like they would have been that receptive, I wouldn't have been like worried about it. Like you have to ask for stuff. You have to like, no one else is like looking after your career except for you. So like if you want something, like take the swing and ask for it and go for it. Within reason. Like you don't want to, ask to be the CEO, but like if there's a role that you think that you would crush, like go and do it. Study off hours, like prove that you know the content, prove that you can do it. So anyway, I ended up moving roles and have moved a couple times since then because I was seeking out other opportunities. So that's the first one. And then to your point about, I heard you say, well, what about if the listeners are not creative, or they think they're not creative, or they're like, why would I be the one to do that? Like I'm working on a smartphone accessory and toy company right now. Like I don't know anything about smartphone accessories or toys or the new parent market. I don't know anything about graphic. Like I'm not a graphic designer. Like I can't come up with characters, but like I have this idea and I have this vision and I want it to come to fruition. And so you find people that are really creative and that do know how to do this stuff. And you go out and you network and you talk to people that have done it. That like those sorts of swings of like anyone can really do anything if they surround themselves with the right people. So like don't let like your lack of knowledge now prevent you from doing something, because you can learn that stuff later. You can learn it as you go. And so, now I've been to the toy fair in New York and I know probably a lot about toys in the span of like a few months. And that's something that if you told me, I would say like 6, 7, 8 months ago, like that would be weird. If I was just like on this podcast, like I love toys. Like I know toys. Like what? That's not, at all like congruent with my background or my interests or my passions, which we talked about before, but it's becoming one. It's becoming an interest. Because I took a swing and put myself out there. So those are just the kind of the two big things that pop into mind.
Yeah, we're going to explore this a bit here because like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, toys, did not see that coming. But I think that is some of the beauty in all this here. And they're like, starting with that one, and then we'll go back to betterment here. Yeah. And there are some real, like, some really important things. Like, I mean, look at this. Like what you just said, this really resonates with me. 6 months ago, I wasn't in Singapore. 8 months ago, I didn't know I was going to be in Singapore. 2 months ago, I didn't even know you, like, so we didn't even know we're going to have this conversation. Yeah. But I love how you're like, all right, like this is where I want to be right now. I'm feeling the smartphone accessory. I'm feeling that it's toys. I don't know anything about it. And what I'm hearing from you is that you're like that wasn't an indication to stop. It was an indication to find out more information and make sure that you're like surrounding yourself with people and opportunities that will help you fill in those gaps, whatever it is. Either you, Mike, were going to fill it in yourself and like become a subject matter expert, or you're going to find other people who can handle things or take care of things that weren't your strength, weren't things you were going to do. Is that like, am I getting that right? Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I think that's certainly true for, for the toy / smartphone accessory business. Because there's literally, besides like thinking about the marketing, which, I've been in marketing, so I can think about the brand, I can think about the marketing, but, and I can think about the idea and the vision for where I want the idea to go. But, in terms of the actual execution, like I don't have a factory. I don't speak Chinese, so I can't communicate with factories in China. I can't draw the characters. I can't, I don't know about supply chain and manufacturing timelines, like all that stuff I needed to go out and get help. But like that's exciting. And I think even when you're working at a tech company, like there are tons of, even in marketing, especially where I was in product marketing, there were tons of product and engineering questions that like I didn't really know. And you think about, working at a tech company coming from a different, maybe more formal background, I started in tech, so it was a little different. Like I heard engineers and product managers talking about a bunch of stuff. And so over the years, I picked up the lingo, but I'm not technical in nature, so I don't know really any languages. I picked up a little bit of SQL, but I picked up SQL only because I had engineering friends at the company who would like stay late with me and like show me, cool things that I could do in terms of like pulling data, so I didn't have to bother them the next day to like pull this data that I need. Like I could just do it on my own. And so like you build relationships, and you build relationships with people that know a lot more than you about different aspects of the job, and you learn. And I think that's the exciting part about working in like a fast-paced tech company. It's why I'm still here. And two, for your own thing, it's like you could learn a whole different industry and explore a whole different concept, when you go home. So anyway, the continuous learning and the rapid pace to which things develop, either if you're doing something on your own or at a tech company, I think is really cool. And that's what's kept me engaged.
So like, employees, as you're hearing this here, I think it's safe to say that like continuous learning and having that hunger and being willing to go out there is just like, it's an important part of a career in tech and a successful career in tech. And I kind of want to like, explore that part of like your career in tech, Mike, and it's cool because I feel like you're finding enjoyment through a number of different means, and we still need to even go back and explore more with your Venture for America time here. I'm just like so intrigued by all these different things here. It's like thank you for having the passion that you have, because it's just like flowing through, and I think it's just it's incredibly valuable. So you were I thought it was interesting that you said like you picked up SQL and you just picked up what you needed to, and it helped you do your job better, but it was like in the service of your job and in the service of the engineers being able to do their job. They're like, let me teach you what you need to know so that you can do this here. But you didn't like
first of all, I am terrible at SQL, so I just want to throw it out there. Like I am, if the same engineers who taught me SQL were like, hey, I need this like right now, like I would still need their help, right? Like I'm not an expert, but I know like the basic construct, and I get the structure of the language. But it was actually my boss who was like, dude, like you need to do this on your own, because you're going to be way faster and you're going to be way better at your current job. So like go and take this course. So I actually went to, I don't know, it was like a 2-day offsite SQL course somewhere in New York. And I learned it. And then when I came back, 2 days isn't enough to learn a language. So then I asked for help, and and especially the product managers that I was working with at the time, typically were the ones that handled the data pulls and the data requests. But I was asking them to do it so often, and they were just like, okay, like you took this class, like let's make use of it.
Oh, I love it. I love it there. And so like now that we're in Betterment, let's spend some time like exploring Betterment for a bit here. And I think we have a really cool opportunity to explore like internal mobility. That's not something we've talked about too much yet on the podcast. So there are definitely employees out there that have been in tech, and they're like, maybe they started out of there right there out of college or something like that, and they're just like, so I'm like, what do I do now? Like I got in this role, it's going fine for me, or you know what? I know that like, if I listen to the little voice in my heart, and they may not call it that, but they're like their intuition, their gut, something feels off, and they know that they are looking for the next change, but they're like, how do I navigate this? Like, how do I do it? What does a career in tech look like? So would you mind just talking a little bit here about like, going back to like how you went through that first change, and then all the other changes that you had in your company internally, and just maybe walking us through some of the things that you learned through that. Yeah,
well, I mean, so before like anything, I think like if you build relationships within a company, and you really care about the people and you care about the mission, which is I think huge when you work at a tech company or a startup, that like you could go work for another company and get paid more, but it's like the environment and the mission and like this sense of community that I found at both the tech companies that I worked at, that's super motivating. And I think like if you show that like you're a part of that momentum, and that you're a part of that mission and that culture, like, and you prove value and you work hard, like they're more or less like, if it's a good company, they're going to work with you to keep you. And so this kind of goes back to like not really having a singular passion when we were talking about in the beginning. Like I never really wanted to be a marketer. You know, I didn't want to be an investment banker, so I didn't do that. And then, you know, basically a couple turns later, I was chief of staff at this tech company in New Orleans. They didn't have a marketing department. So I raised my hand and was like, I'm going to help start the marketing department. And so I think I read like the HubSpot blog, like every day. I was like, they know marketing, so I'm going to read their blog. And it's like, I got to know the language, and just kind of like tried some stuff out. And it was better than anything they had, because like the CEO at the time, I mean, they've since done a rebrand, and, you know, he wasn't very marketing minded. And I kind of think more like branding, storytelling, consumer. And so, you know, I kind of like got into it. And then that was like the last experience I had was in the marketing team. So when I was interviewing for tech companies in New York, that's where I was interviewing. It was in marketing departments. And to kind of get back to your question about, you know, internal change, I didn't necessarily want to be a marketer. That wasn't like my intention, you know, leaving that company in New Orleans, but that's just what I had experience with. So, you know, I gave it some time. I still had a ton to learn. Like I wasn't a experienced marketer, so there's a lot to learn. It goes back to continuous learning and wanting to, you know, pick up a new skill set. And it was especially interesting to me because it was product marketing. So I was integrated with the product team and the marketing team. So I got to just speak a whole different language with the product guys. But then there was a certain point of like, wait, what? Now I'm just going to be pigeonholed as a marketer when I know I want to go and do, you know, start a company, and I need to know a lot of different parts of the business. So then there was an opportunity, and this was the first opportunity that I was talking about, to lead marketing for a smaller business line, smaller, but, you know, growing. And the company was investing more resources into it at the time. And so I went over to lead marketing for that business line. There was like 4 people on the team. So I'm like, now I'm working in this like little startup within a startup, or a little startup within a growth tech company. And that I just was like reinvigorated. It's amazing how your mood and your morale and your motivation and your energy level changes when you make a positive switch within a company that you like. Like it was like, you know, I was at this sort of decision point of like, all right, I'm bored in this role. I don't really want to be here. Do I like leave the company? No, I like the company. I like the culture. I like what we're doing. So like find somewhere else where you can learn in an area. Like you may not be like super passionate about it, but find something that's new and that's different that you may want to learn, and pursue that, because you never know where that's going to lead. So long story short, there's another change basically to leave marketing. So I did that for a while, and then we needed someone to kind of focus more on like business operations, to like think about the budget and partnerships, and it's a combination of like ops and strategy, little bit of marketing and growth. And I because I knew the business line, because I had decided to make that first change, I was well equipped to then make that change into the new role. And that's where I am now. So, you know, I think it comes down to just like seeking out opportunities when opportunities come up, and being willing to learn a new part of the company.
Awesome, Mike. We're going to break this down a little bit here. Do you mind?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So like, I think where I want to, everything that would make the long story long is where I would like to play, right? Because I think that's like it's one of those things where employees, I know that they can like make moves in their career and moves within the same company. But then, you know, I actually was having a great conversation with someone yesterday, which turned into coaching. And it was one of those things where, like, in talking to her, she described, she's like, I'm good at this job. Like, there's just so many things that, you know I still want to explore. And there were a lot of questions in her mind that were coming up. In fact, I'm going to see if I can like bring up like 1 or 2 of them right now. And then just to kind of like set a bit of a stage here. Because like, I'm like, I need to be out here and serve the employees out here fully. So give me a second here. I'm going to just like grab one of the things that she said. So some of the things that she mentioned was like, you know, sometimes I feel like I don't know what questions I'm supposed to ask to get into the new role, or like to like figure out like what's the next move for me, and like trying to understand like who do I navigate these questions to, who do I direct these questions to, how do I manage this with my current my current team, because like things are good there. I don't want to set off like a bad, taste in anyone's mouth.
Yeah.
Way, and I don't want to come off as complaining about my own role right now. I just know that that I'm ready for the next thing. And, is there like a certain length that I need to be in a certain role? Like, is it, if I've only been in a role for a year, is that too soon? But I know it's not the role for me. Is that too soon to move? Is that too soon to be exploring? So these are some of the questions that we talk through during the conversation. And, I like to make sure that I continue to help employees that I coach, through different things. So would you mind just letting us know? I'm sure her questions are in the minds of other employees out there. Like,
sure.
Take us to that part of your journey. It's probably happened the first time you made the move. And let us know like your thoughts on all this here.
Yeah, sort of like how did I actually navigate the change from like a tactical perspective?
Yes. And a mindset perspective too, like, because a lot of these things here are like just like there's a lot of doubt coming through. So just putting it all out on the table here, like. Yeah,
I mean the first thing that I did, I took people out to coffee. It sounds like kind of stupid, but there are people that kind of knew the new business line that I was thinking of jumping to, and we talked about it. We talked about what the business does, like what would my potential role be, and these are relationships that I had built in my old role. So it wasn't like I was just like reaching out to random people at the company. Like I knew, these are my friends, but it was a more focused conversation around where I thought that I could be. Those were more like exploratory, just kind of like. Also, it was positioned as like, tell me about like what you think about the business line. Like, talk to me about like what does this mean, And so it was more like from like an educational. Like, I just wanted to like learn more. And then, I mean, yeah, in terms of like setting off alarm bells. I'm of the belief that transparency is super important. And, if you're, again, like, I don't know, I keep coming back to relationships. Like, I felt comfortable with people on my team, and I felt comfortable with HR, and I felt comfortable with people that were on the new team that, I wanted to join. And so I was really, I'm an open book in general. So like, I wasn't really hiding it. I wasn't playing, company politics or like hiding anything. Like I was pretty open about my desire to get into other things. And I've been open about my desire to go start a company at some point in my life. And so like, they know that I'm pushing and that I'm thinking about other things. And so like, that actually helped me because, I could then attach the new role to like some of the things that I wanted to eventually do in my career. And, as I look, past Betterment. And so I know it's not that helpful, but that's kind of how I went about it.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to like scratch that. I'm like, this is incredibly helpful. Helpful. There's a couple different things that came up here that I want to just kind of highlight on it. I think the first one here is around that transparency. And I'm going to couple that with transparency and objectives. But firstly on the transparency portion, because, employees, as we're talking here, I realize I'm talking in internal mobility. I'm like, why am I asking this question? Because like some of you might be career changers right now. And I'm like, why am I exploring this here? And what I realized, like, as you were talking, Michael, is that, like generally speaking, like in tech, it's not just like one career, one role, and that's it. Like employees, I'm here for you to find enjoyment through employment. And that's like, or to experience enjoyment through employment, not just find it, not just like know that it's out there, but for you yourself to experience it. And that's going to have like, I'll get you, together, we'll get you into tech. That is actually like probably the easiest part of this entire thing, getting that first role in there. And I know it might like be like, who is Nemo to say this at this time? I'm going to say it, like getting in, like if you're listening to this podcast, if you're hungry to learn, if you're the kind of person that's going to spend their nights, weekends, extra time, learning a little bit of coding on the side or going to networking events just to learn, and to continue to grow yourself, you're going to get it. Because that's like, this seems to be like this consistent thread of like who you are as a person speaks far more than what you know, because they can teach you what you know. They can pay for you to go learn those SQL classes in a 2-day thing and then come back and say, you still don't know enough. So we're going to like sit down with you right now and help you on the problems that matter. But this aspect of being like this mobility is like your entire career. It's going to be something. You said it's fast paced. It's changing all the time. And so like, and you want to be able to grow with the organization. So this is probably more for me to realize like, yeah, this is insanely important to be able to like, not just get in and, but be consistent. Go ahead, Michael. Looks like you want to say something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I would even flip that. It like a growing startup and tech company, they want people who are adaptable. Like they're looking for people that aren't going to be, upset when their role changes because the company made a strategic change. Like that's going to happen. And they want smart, adaptable people who can learn different skill sets quickly. I would say that's, probably more true for a smaller, growing tech company, but like even at Betterment size, over a couple hundred employees, like that's still certainly the case. We're still figuring things out.
Yes. So like in the transparency world here, I felt like realistically coming from a consultant environment, I wish that I had adopted transparency earlier. That was one of the things where I was really surprised with just like how open people were about like their moves. And, we were talking a little bit about my decision to come over there. I knew that at that point I had a business on the side similar to this, where I was like, when I was interviewing in my interview phase, I was like, I do not want to have this thing be something I do in the corner. And like, I'm not really sure if you should know that I'm like building up this business. I'm like, I want to be front and center. And if a company won't want me because I have this business, well, thank goodness I found that out in the interview stage as opposed to like later on in it. Right. So just that level of transparency and being able to, and I think part of that is coupled with your clear objectives where you're like, I know that like for me, what I'm doing is I'm building, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be building companies, and I want my time here I want to deliver great results to you, but I also need to grow in that ultimate mission of where I'm going.
Yep.
So like, I'm now going to flip this a little bit from both me and you, Michael, and focus this on to like employees. And employees, like you might be at the gym right now listening to this, or you might be like on the subway or on your commute to work, or you might just be sitting at home comfortably, just sitting around ready for this. But whatever you're doing, I would like for you to take some time to now reflect internally, right? What are your objectives here? Why are you getting into tech? What is the thing that you are moving toward? It doesn't have to have a specific name on it. Like Mike is out here telling us about like now he's doing smartphones and in the toy industry, but like that's not where he started since 8 months ago. He didn't even know he would be doing this here, right? But like in terms of your life, like what are you looking for from it? What are you looking to be able to accomplish and achieve? And like why does this job? Why would your role in tech like move you forward? Why did you choose that? And stay true to that. And actually, not beyond staying true to it, you owe it to yourself to define that, because in that portion there's strength. There's strength in that, and the strength to be transparent, the strength to be open, the strength to build relationships, and the strength to be authentic, to be yourself. Because Mike, what I got from you is like, I'm going out to coffee, I'm going out with some of my friends here, and they know me, and I'm just coming in as me, like looking for whatever comes next.
That's absolutely, man. Amen to all that. And I think as you're asking those questions, I've kind of, I think about those questions myself. And a lot of the times the answer isn't so clear, but you have a general direction. Like you can feel a general direction. And so like whether or not like right now, everyone can articulate exactly what that direction is. Like I feel like it's important just to identify the feeling of progress towards something. And that something is, it doesn't have to be well defined right now, but it definitely has to exist, right?
Awesome. So like, Mike, I'm going to take things in a little bit of a different direction because, as we've been talking about this year, we've been hearing your successes throughout this. And one of the things that comes to mind is like, all right, so like, tell me about a time when things didn't work out. What was it like for Mike when he took on a project and it just didn't, I'm going to just say it, like he failed in it, and whatever that means to you. So walk us through that. Give us an example of that. Give us a specific project or a specific thing. Let us know what led up to it and what came out afterwards so that we can go ahead and benefit from this example as we think through our experience on how we can move forward. So would you mind giving us a story about that?
Yeah. there's a clear answer to this question, and it's something that I haven't really talked openly about in like a public setting, but I think this is a good time to do it. So when I started that nonprofit in New Orleans called Startup Effect, and the goal of the program was sort of an extension of Venture for America. It was to help instill entrepreneurial and business principles, or to teach entrepreneurship and business principles to inner city students in Detroit and New Orleans. So my co-founder in New Orleans, Billy, and I, like we went into schools, we knocked on doors, we talked to principals, we got into a couple schools to run this after school program, and this was another sort of like side hustle. Like I was working at this market research tech company, and I was doing this on the side. And man, is there a difference when there are like kids that are relying on you. There's like a group of students who you are building this relationship with and who are relying on you to be there and to come with energy and to like have a lesson plan. And like that's a real pressure. And of course, the stuff I'm working on now, there's pressure to deliver and to be successful. But that's more like intrinsically motivated. And like this is a little different. Like the management of Venture for America was like, this was sort of the first like kids oriented program and service oriented program that had come out of VFA, because we were in the first year. And so it sort of became this, Startup Effect was this like this story to be told about VFA entrepreneurs in these cities. And so, on the one hand, it was great to get the story of Startup Effect out there. On the other hand, there was a ton of pressure to deliver. And I was just this like kid out of college that had no idea what he was doing, who was like making it up, as he went, as I went, as we went. Billy didn't know what he was doing either. And so we ended up doing it. We ran a 10-week program, and we built relationships with there's like 15 or 20 students in the initial class. We also had a program happening in Detroit. Brian and Brent were running that arm, and they did a good job the first year. VFA got us a lot of press. We had a website and social, and we were getting, we were in New Orleans newspapers and all this good stuff. And by the way, we raised some money from prominent VFA investors and supporters. And so there was that added pressure. And again, like I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to report how we were spending money and why, and, where the money was going, and, how we actually made an impact on the students' lives, which I still think that we did. But here's where the failure comes in. And here's what I haven't really talked about is like, I feel like I let those kids down because, and I let future kids down, and I let VFA down. I let myself down, and Billy and Brent and Brian, because this ultimately ended up kind of just fading off into the abyss. I left New Orleans after the 2-year program. Brian and Brent left Detroit after their 2-year stint. Billy stayed, and he did a good job of continuing things forward, and we tried to pass it off. Turns out we were trying to pass it off to the next generation of Venture for America fellows. But the beautiful thing about Venture for America fellows is that they want to start their own thing. They didn't want to just run something that was already built and just kind of, pass down. So that model really didn't work, and it sort of deteriorated. And that was it hurts to like recall that story. That was an epic fail. And so like looking back on, what an amazing learning experience, because I had a tremendous amount of responsibility. We all did, Billy, Brian, and Brent, and I all shared it, but, it was a hard loss to swallow when we realized that, this thing really wasn't going anywhere. It was sort of it was in the back of my head that like, what are we doing with this thing for like a couple of years? And then it just kind of fizzled.
Mike, can I just firstly say thank you for just being open with that there, and like really just bringing everything to the table of this conversation there. I can hear like how difficult this still is for you here. And the fact that you call it an epic failure, it's actually really interesting to me because to me, it seems like a grand success that may not be continuing in the way that you envisioned it, yeah. But I think it almost goes back to one of those things that you had said earlier about like, what's the true impact, being able to report on the true impact and knowing what the true impact is. And it's one of those things where like, as you're describing this here, I think to myself and I'm like, wow, there are children out there whose lives are going to change or have been changed because they had this experience. There are children out there that will always remember the startup effect experience and what it meant for them. And it planted enough of a seed for them to start their own business, maybe, feel a little bit more confident in themselves, yeah. Maybe, find a way for them to express themselves or find a group of friends. Perhaps all that came out of this is that now they have a group of friends who understood that experience with them. And like now going throughout their life, they have it, Yeah. I think that like honestly, to tell you, like, I would be more disappointed if you look back, if you went back in time to the very beginning of your VFA experience and said, you know what, we're not going to be able to keep this going on in perpetuity. I know that at some point, this is not what I'm going to want to do full time. So we're not even going to start this. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate that spin. I think that there's a lot more we could have done in that initial pilot. And I think there's a lot more thought that could have gone in and time that could have gone into making sure that it was passed on and it was grown in the most successful way possible. But it goes back to taking the swing, right? Like I think you kind of like, I'm still proud that I took that swing with Billy and Brent and Brian. It was a big part of my Venture for America experience. But I view it as, and you can view it as, I hit the ball to the second baseman and he threw me out at first easily. You can view it as an epic strikeout. But I was going for a home run with it and I didn't hit that. So to me, it does feel like a failure. But a lot to be learned from that.
So like, let me ask you here, like if you had a takeaway from this experience that you want employees to walk away with, right? Putting yourself in their shoes here, what would be your top takeaway? Or if you have more than one, feel free to share them.
Yeah. Your time is valuable. So make sure that you are spending your time learning the things you want to learn and building the things you want to build. I think back to Startup Effect and, it was one of those things where like, I just wanted to build something. And so here were these guys that like also kind of wanted to build something and we just kind of like threw this thing together. And I think if we were more thoughtful about how we wanted to build it and like what we wanted to get out of it, that all aligned with our individual interests, I think it would have gone further.
Mm-hmm. Your time is valuable, employees. And, this again comes back to, I'm seeing like some objective, build in there and knowing what you want out of your life, out of your time. So you can go ahead and actually accomplish that, right? As opposed to just getting to the end and being like, I wanted something more, but I never took the time to define what that more was. And now that time has passed.
And I would also apply that to you're in a job. If some of you may be in a job that you don't like, and that same thing stands. It's just like your time is valuable. Is this really how you want to be spent waking up and you're going to a job that you don't like or you're in a role you don't like? Like you have the power to change that. And you just, you have to take the swing and do it.
So if it's okay with you, Mike, I'm going to take a swing here. There are a couple people that have come up that I've met through Enjoyment. I actually I'm a part of a couple different accountability groups because quite frankly, doing this kind of stuff it's scary to make any kind of meaningful movement in your life can be really scary. Even if you feel the confidence there's just like ways that you can sabotage yourself throughout. So I'm a part of a couple different groups and communities. And I was actually talking to one of my accountability partners yesterday, and one of her asks was like, if you know anyone who has been involved or is involved with helping middle schoolers, kind of reach their full potential. I would love to get to know them. So would you mind, Mike, if I put you in contact with her? She's doing some great things right now. From in my mind, I see this as like, the startup effect, like that maybe the chapter ended in NOLA, but like who you are and what you can do, that impact can still be out there. So I would love to put you.
Oh man, of course. I would love that. And startup effect and that experience is forever going to be a part of me. And I think there's a lot to be done in education. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. Awesome. I'm going to put you in touch with her. It's a great program called Girls with Ideas. And I think that from what you are describing right here, I feel like it'll be a really good mix. I'll leave it up to y'all to see what can come from it all. Yeah. But I do want to put that out there because as you were saying,
Nemo taking swings.
Yes, exactly. I'm feeling emboldened. I'm feeling empowered.
I love this.
What you've done. So would you mind here, letting us know, now that we focus on something that was a difficult time for you, I'd love to go to an experience that brought you joy, that brought you great joy, that really fulfilled you. Do you have an example of that in your life? Well, I know you do. Let me rephrase that. I know you have an example. Yeah. Do you mind? Can you share with us that example?
Yeah. I'll talk about, I'll keep it in the career professional arena. Just about six or 7 months ago, a coworker at Betterment and I had this crazy idea to put a little character on top of a smartphone. It's like a little clip that clips onto the smartphone. The character has a little rattle in it, and you rattle it in front of a baby or a dog to get their attention to take a better picture. We're friends. We're just coming up with silly ideas and creative ideas. By the way, another huge benefit of working at a tech company and why I love it so much is that so many people here are innovative and entrepreneurial and that are here because they want to change an industry or contribute to kind of a new way of doing things. And so, you end up pairing up and grouping up and talking about the future of whatever. And it's super exciting. So this idea kind of popped into our head. We ended up calling the company Lookaloo. And that's this smartphone accessory toy company that I talked about earlier. And the fulfillment and the accomplishment that I wanted to talk about comes from taking that idea and having the persistence and the dedication to see the idea through, because there's a lot of times in my life where I've come up with ideas that I thought were good and I just kind of let sit because I was too busy, or I wanted to go out instead of staying home and working on the idea, or I was staying late at work, and so I was just I don't have time for this, abandon the idea, and I never revisited them. And this is the first time really in my life that I've had an idea that I've liked, that I have a partner who pushes me and who pushes me to be creative and accountable. And so, now, a toy fair later and, talking to dozens of people in the toy industry and manufacturers. And we got into an incubator in New York called FutureWorks. And it's it becomes real. All of a sudden, this dream and this vision of doing something creative and cool, just boom, it happened because I dedicated the time and I found something that lit a fire in me, and I just kind of let myself see how large that fire can get. And I'm still doing that. I don't know where Lookaloo is going to go. But we're hoping to launch a crowdfunding campaign at the beginning of next year and launch the pre-sale website potentially at the end of this year or when we launch the crowdfunding campaign. So this thing is real and we're excited about it. And this is the first real thing first real business idea that I've actually dedicated myself to. And so that's feels good,
Congratulations. I am so tempted to just start clapping here. I have a slow clap kind of thing. But
fireworks. You're on the fireworks.
Yes.
Sound effects.
There it is. It's like bringing the parade here. And I think, and the reason for this here is really because of your own personal accomplishment here, to hear you say like, and you've done things, I think that's the other thing that's really interesting. You've done things. We just talked about startup effect, so like you've seen things through, you had visions, you brought them to life. And yet this thing right here means something very special to you, and to have you be able to realize that like, this is an important like milestone in your life at this point. And that, just like your own personal triumphs in terms of continuing to stay focused, continuing to move forward, being around someone who is giving you that accountability and knowing that you need that, or that benefits you and other people are not going to get it. I have a 1-year-old niece right now, and like I'm just thinking about being able to use like Lookaloo and like I'm like right here. This is where the magic is. Magic's right over here. So, this sounds awesome. And, I think employees out there probably want to stay in touch as how things go along. So please let us know, like when you have some sites up there, when the crowdfunding campaign gets up there, like we're a community here. We all help each other to find that enjoyment through employment. And like, I feel like you have some through your full-time job, and then but your enjoyment is far larger encompassing than just a specific career. It's almost like your career is as a serial entrepreneur. That's like your real career, and you're out there in tech right now doing some things to continue to fuel that along the way.
Absolutely.
So like let us know. We want to be here. We want to support you on this here. We want the benefits for ourselves, So Mike, I ask that you keep us in the loop. So
I will do that, and I appreciate that, and I will share any and all stories along the way if it's helpful.
Oh, it's always going to be helpful. I think like that's the great thing about employees here. Like we want to learn, and we know that it's not about you in particular, Mike. It's not about like, oh, he had this experience and he had, all these things lined up for him. It's like, you're showing us how you're consistently going for it. You're showing us that like anyone can do this, and anyone can also get trapped. Anyone can also get stopped at any moment. Yeah. And, for that, like it's always going to be relevant. So like, keep us in the loop. Kind of looking at that here, like looking ahead, kind of now to this point here, like what excites you going forward, going here? Is it like, you can let us know something that comes to mind.
Yeah. The continued possibility of building something new, right? Like, I think back to Startup Effect. I think back to Network to Success that, ultimately was a failure too. And I think to Lookaloo and what we're creating there, it's like, I'm excited to learn like what else, like toys and like this like gamified networking thing and like an after school program. And like I'm excited to just like see where things go and who I meet along the way. Like this, just like, the unknown and the uncertainty excites me, and I'm looking forward to kind of shining a light on that sort of uncertainty and seeing where I can go. And to that is like the people that I've met at now it's called Lucid in New Orleans, that I keep in touch with. The people at Betterment that I've met, like who knows, what I'm going to end up doing with them, or like the things that they're going to do that like I can be a part of. Like you just like, you keep meeting these, and you put yourself in situations where you keep meeting incredible people to become friends with, mentors, mentees, like co-founders. Like you never know where they come from. And so, probably that honestly more than anything is what excites me. I want to stop there.
Oh, well, like, I love this here. You're putting yourself in situations where you just never know what else is going to come out there. And I think that, like, I appreciate you putting yourself in this situation. I didn't know where this conversation was going to go at all. Like, I've enjoyed the journey there. And I think that, one of the things that's big for me and enjoyment is that, realistically, when I was making, I told you about that Cab With Me experience. I started listening to a podcast called Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas. And, I'll refer to him a lot of times because I call him my mentor from afar. And, you had mentioned focus earlier as something there. He has a quote that I'll pass on to you, which is focus. Follow one course until success. FOCUS. Follow one course until success. And that I bring all this up here because like, I remember listening to that podcast and it got me to a point of like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this. I can be an entrepreneur. And that's led me on my first steps, got me to that point where that site logo was up there. And there are going to be employees that are listening to this. And this might be the episode where they like finally allow themselves to say, okay, great. Now what? Right. Yeah. I'm ready to take action. I'm ready to find the enjoyment in my life through whatever I do. I'm ready to step into this role as, someone that's currently working. And so I can go back and be an example, a beacon of light for my community so that other middle schoolers will see me and say, hey, I want to be like so-and-so when I grow up. Or when I have children, when they say I'm going to enter tech, it's like, oh, obviously I did it myself. Like no problem. I know so many other people who are successful. So for those of us that are like at this point right now that are like, okay, I've listened and I've learned and now I'm looking for another L word and I can't think of it, but now I'm ready to take action. What advice would you give us in order to move forward in our journey within the next 7 days? Anything come to mind there?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So the question that I would ask you is, for any of us that are like, we're like, okay, we're ready to take action right now. We're feeling empowered. It's time to do this here. What would you recommend? What actions would you give us to take within the next 7 days to move forward toward experiencing enjoyment through employment?
Yeah. Well, the first step is write it down. I think, you sort of called on everybody earlier to come up with that direction where they want to go, that objective and that goal, like write that down, like make sure that, and also, kind of an aside, like writing really helped clarify a lot of the things that I want to do and sort of the direction that I want to go in. Like thinking in your own head and even talking to people is way different than putting pen to paper. So I think one, just like write that down. And then two, find 3 people that you can talk to that know something about where you want to go more than you do, and talk to those people. And then like they're gonna know people and they're gonna give you recommendations. And so that's kind of where I would take it initially.
I love it. And thank you, Mike, for that, because it's so simple. That's what I really love about this year. It's like, employees, you can do that. You can write down your objective there, right? There's a step 0 there of like actually spending the time to define your objective. And, there are a lot of people who don't do that. And, I think that like, how can you experience enjoyment if you don't even know what it is for yourself, right? Yeah. So take that, write it down, and then find 3 people that know something more about what you're trying to get into. And then from there, like there's a third step is then take their recommendations and continue to run with that. Awesome. Mike, this is powerful stuff. This is like no joke kind of a conversation here. And, I just really appreciate you just being so open and honest with your experience, being so forthcoming, letting your passion come out here and taking the swing on me here and saying, like, let's just go out here and I'll share my story. I'll put things out there that I haven't put out there before because it's important. And like, I think that we as employees, I know that we as employees are going to honor that there by taking action on ourselves and using that to move us forward just a little bit, so a little bit further so that we can have these kind of aha moments and hopefully come out and share our stories again with the rest of the employees out there. So
great. Well, I hope so. And I appreciate the opportunity to share some of this stuff. It's been insightful for me and I'm happy to keep the conversation going and hear from everybody else too. It's inspiring. I don't want it to be a one-way conversation. So I'm definitely gonna tap into the community and excited to see where that can go.
Absolutely. So like, let us know, so I'm going to invite you to the Employment community that we have here over at employees.com so that we can continue these conversations and, to see where things are going and build workshops and all that stuff. But if we wanted to get in contact with you, can we reach out to you on LinkedIn? Would that be all right?
Yeah, of course.
All right, cool. So we'll go ahead and do that too. So, Mike, like any final comments? Otherwise we'll go ahead and wrap things up.
Yeah, no, I mean, No, I don't have it. I think we covered most of what I wanted to cover and talk about and way more than I thought we were going to cover. So, I'm just appreciative of the opportunity, and it was good to meet you, Nemo, and I love what you're doing. So,
yeah, well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, your expertise, your openness, your candor. We really, really appreciate you helping us experience more enjoyment today. And here's to experience and enjoy each and every day. Take care, Mike. So hopefully, employees, now you can feel a little bit more comfortable about how you can navigate your career once you've gotten into tech or once you've gotten into whatever career you want. These types of mentalities and these types of practices apply in so many different ways. The main thing about this is that they just don't apply on their own. They do need you to take that action and be bold enough to challenge yourself to define what you want and then go for it. As we discussed, your time is valuable, so do the things that matter to you most. Do the things that bring you joy. Just go ahead and take some swings, employees. So let's look at that here and see how that we can take that insight and move it into action. So Mike's suggestions for moving forward in your journey were so simple. You can implement within 15 to 30 minutes and make meaningful progress in your journey. We should all have at least 30 minutes available to pursue fulfillment in our life and career. So let's take that action this week. What I'd like for you to do is to then come over to the Empjoyment community, which is the home of the Empjoyees over at empjoyees.com, and let us know, what do you truly want out of your next career experience? What type of environment? What type of problems are you solving? What type of people are you working with? So on and so forth. But spend that time. Identify what you want and write it down as Mike has suggested. And then come share your thoughts with us within the Empjoyment community and use the hashtag Joiny27 so that no matter when you happen to be listening to this episode, you can join the conversation and add your thoughts to help inspire those that have come before you and those will come after you and those that are right there with you, all moving forward and progressing to their current stage of enjoyment. As I'm recording this, I realize just how good we have it here. The fact that we have each other is phenomenal because we could have been doing this out all on our own. And the fact that we have a group of people, even just one other person who understands what we're going through and we know that we're not alone, that is fantastic and spectacular. And it's special. And we created it specifically to be special. So you have this place, you have this space to just be you and to get help moving forward and to help others moving forward. I'm amazed by what we create together, and I'm so excited for you and the visions of what you want out of your next experiences that will be shared within this community. All right, so we'll end it here. Remember, employees, do what brings you joy each and every day. Take care.